The Las Vegas Raiders just made a bold move, adding defensive tackle Thomas Booker in a trade that might fly under the radar. But not for long. Because what Booker brings to the table isn't just depth, it's electric speed on the interior line, something the Raiders have desperately lacked. Last season, Booker logged just 182 snaps with the Eagles. But even in that small sample, you can spot explosive potential. Now, before we dive into what makes him special, take a quick second, subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and don't forget to tap the bell icon so you never miss breaking news on the Raiders. Let's keep building this football family. Back to Booker. He's not your typical pass rushing technician, not yet. He's still developing the finer points of the position. But what jumps off the screen? His movement. This guy is 6'3", and he moves like a linebacker. That's rare. That's dangerous. Let me break it down. Watch this rep against the Giants. Booker runs a defensive line stunt, and in a blink, he's in the backfield. His lateral quickness, his sudden change of direction, it's not normal for a guy his size. He doesn't just run plays, he disrupts them. Now look, he's not Jalen Carter, but the comparison is worth mentioning. Like Carter, Booker uses movement as his weapon. Carter wins by making guards guess wrong. Step left, cut right. Look right, slide inside. It's all about unpredictability. And Booker shows flashes of that same style. The Raiders' defensive line has been a weakness for too long. But if Booker can grow, refine his technique, and keep using that speed, the silver and black may have found a hidden gem. What makes Thomas Booker so intriguing isn't just his speed, it's how he uses it. He's not the polished type yet, but the flashes? They're hard to ignore. He's slippery. He's agile. He has a rare ability to make blockers not with fancy hand moves or brute strength, but with sheer movement. And that's exactly what the Raiders need on the inside. Quick disruption, chaos in the trenches. Now, let's be clear, he's no Jalen Carter, but the mold is similar. Both men rely on shiftiness. Booker hasn't mastered the devastating club move yet, but what he has is the foundation: quick feet, sharp angles, and an understanding of leverage that can break plays before they even begin. Why does that matter for the Raiders? Because this defense has been crying out for someone who can penetrate, who can collapse a pocket from the inside without needing 10 seconds to do it. Booker brings that upside, not only in passing situations, but also in the run game. His power doesn't scream off the screen, but it's there. When he gets low and drives forward, you feel it. He might not throw linemen around like a veteran, but he wins with leverage, and that's the kind of trait that gets better with every snap. Forget where he came from. Forget comparisons. The only question now is, can the Raiders unlock that raw speed and sharpen it into a weapon? If they can, this could be one of the quietest steals of the offseason. One thing that jumps off the tape with Thomas Booker: raw power. This guy doesn't just dance around blockers, he goes through them. He's got that bull rush ability, the kind that pushes guards straight into the quarterback's lap. You'll see it often on film. He lowers his shoulder, digs in, and drives forward like a wrecking ball. But there's more to it than brute strength. On one rep, he uses something called a fork move, a smart, technical maneuver where he lifts the offensive lineman's arm to break their leverage mid-bull rush. It's subtle but devastating. And on that particular play, it worked against Trey Smith, one of the best guards in the league. Booker didn't record a sack, but he did collapse the pocket against an all-pro. That's no fluke. Here's the reality. Booker played just 182 snaps last season. Of those, 87 were passing downs. And incredibly, 35 of those 87 reps, he was double-teamed. That means he had just 52 true one-on-one chances to rush the passer. That's why you won't find big sack numbers next to his name. But numbers alone won't tell you the full story. They won't tell you about the flashes of brilliance, like shrugging off running back chips or pushing past elite guards. They won't tell you how often he forced quarterbacks to move off their spot, even if it didn't show up on the stat sheet. Make no mistake, the Raiders aren't getting a polished product. They're getting a raw talent, a lineman still learning the ropes. But if Las Vegas can give him the reps, if they can coach him up while letting that natural quickness and strength shine through, they might just uncover a defensive tackle who becomes a true disruptor in the AFC West. Every great defensive lineman starts as a project, and right now, Thomas Booker is exactly that, a project with potential. When you watch him play, there's one thing that jumps out again and again: his movement. Quick off the ball, fast in space, and smart when reading the play. That's not something you can teach, and it's why the Raiders took a shot on him. He's not a finished product. Not yet. But he's far ahead of where most young tackles are at this point. At 25, Booker has tools that suggest he could grow into a well-rounded defender, a reliable pass rusher, and a serious run stopper. This kind of growth takes time. There are linemen who figure it out later in their careers, after years of building power, sharpening moves, and learning the game. Booker has already shown more at his age than some veterans had by 30. And for the Raiders, that's encouraging. Why? Because he's not like the old school nose tackles who just plug gaps and vanish on third down. He's different. He's fast, and that speed translates to impact plays, especially in the run game. Take one zone run, for example. The offense tried to seal him off, reach block him from the side. Booker beat the guard to the spot, shot the gap, and blew up the backside. The play still gained 5 yards, but there was no cutback lane because Booker closed it. That's what the Raiders need right now, not flashy names, not big contracts, but players who can disrupt quietly and win matchups on early downs. Booker might not be a household name today, but if his growth continues, Las Vegas may have found a long-term starter hiding in plain sight. Play after play, Thomas Booker does what every good defender should do. He wins his matchup. And when he doesn't just win, he disrupts. Take a look at his tape. On one play, he's lined up across from a solid offensive lineman, Cody Mach, a player known for technique and strength. Mach tries to cut Booker off, attempting to gain position on a zone run. But Booker fights through with pure aggression and speed, bursting through the block and blowing up the play. That's the kind of effort that turns a decent front into a dominant one. His ability to recognize what's coming, get off blocks quickly, and shoot gaps before linemen can adjust makes him especially dangerous against zone blocking schemes. And in the AFC West, where misdirection and stretch runs are common, Booker's speed could be a nightmare for opposing offenses. Let's be honest, the Raiders aren't desperate for run defenders. But what they are searching for is a lineman who can do both, someone who can hold up against the run but also flash on passing downs. And that's why Booker matters. He's not just a run stuffer. He's a disruptor. Quick, explosive, violent with his hands, the kind of guy who can wreck a play before it even begins. Even against one of the NFL's best guards, Chris Lindstrom, Booker showed he belonged. On a now viral play, Lindstrom tried to seal him off, hoping to create a cutback lane. Booker didn't just recognize it. He stood his ground, took on the block, and eliminated the option entirely. That's called winning your run fit, and it's the kind of discipline and power coaches love. Bottom line, Booker's tape shows the traits you want in a future starter. He may not be flashy. He may not be finished. But for a Raiders defensive line still searching for consistency, he might be exactly what they need. When Thomas Booker engages an offensive lineman, he doesn't just hold his ground. He pushes back, hard. In a key rep against Chris Lindstrom, one of the league's top guards, Booker not only stays low and controlled, he locks out, drives with leverage, and forces the run to collapse. That level of discipline and technique, especially from a young defensive tackle, is exactly what the Raiders need on early downs. Leverage is everything in the trenches, and Booker, he plays low, violent, and smart. Combine that with his natural quickness, and you're looking at a lineman who doesn't just fill space, he creates problems. But let's not pretend he's flawless. There's one area where his tape reveals inconsistency: handling double teams. On some plays, he absorbs them beautifully, staying firm, holding his gap, and even splitting blockers. But on others, he gets pushed backward, sometimes 4 or 5 yards off the line. That kind of inconsistency doesn't mean he can't play. It just means he's still developing. And that's important context. The Raiders didn't trade for a finished star. They didn't expect a day one starter. What they brought in was a raw, high upside defender with traits that can be coached, refined, and molded into something special. They essentially exchanged a depth player in Corey Bennett, who was unlikely to make the final roster, for a chance at growth at potential and at filling a real need on the defensive line. If Booker can shore up those double-team reps and find consistency and leverage across 4 quarters, the Raiders might walk away with one of the quietest wins of the offseason. Let's be honest, the interior of the Raiders' defensive line has been a weakness. Outside of Adam Butler, it's a group still looking for consistency, explosiveness, and someone who can push the pocket. That's where Thomas Booker comes in. Despite limited reps with the Eagles, where he was buried deep on the depth chart, Booker has already shown tape just as good, if not better, than most of the Raiders' current interior linemen. And that's not a knock on him, it's a reality check for how thin the position group is. This trade didn't cost Las Vegas much. They moved on from a player, Corey Bennett, who was unlikely to make the roster. In return, they added a lineman with traits and upside, someone the front office is already familiar with. Some of the scouts in the building have tracked Booker since college. They believe in his work ethic. They see the flashes. And now, they've brought him into a system where he just might thrive. But what truly stands out? His effort. Booker doesn't take plays off. He chases down ball carriers 10, 15, even 30 yards downfield, hustling when most linemen slow up. That kind of relentless motor is rare. And in the trenches, where effort often separates starters from rotational guys, that energy could earn him serious snaps. Add in this. As the fourth or fifth option on the line, Booker's going to see one-on-one matchups. He won't be the focus of the offensive line's attention. And with his quickness, leverage, and effort, those matchups could turn into highlights. He's not a star yet. But this move? It's smart. It's strategic. It gives the Raiders a young piece to work with at a position of need. Time will tell, but Thomas Booker could become one of the most underrated pickups of the Raiders' offseason.